শুভেচ্ছা স্বাগত সবাইকে চলতে চলতে অনুষ্ঠানে আপনাদের সঙ্গে আছে আমি মাহফুজ মিশা। আজকে আমাদের অতিথি ঢাকায় অস্ট্রেলিয়ার হাই কমিশনার গ্রেগ উইলকক। His Excellency Greg Willcock, most welcome to our show. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yeah. Excellency, Australia is our trusted friend. Australia is the first developed country who recognized Bangladesh in 1971.
That's right.
Obviously, we are very much grateful to you. And so it's a long-lasting friendship. And now you are here to represent Australia.
Yes.
And you are about to finish your scheduled tenure.
That's right. When it comes to July, I'll have been in Bangladesh for 4 years, and that will be almost time for me to go home.
Yeah. So you have already passed almost 3 years here, and you understand Bangladesh, the Bangladeshi people. And firstly, I want to know why you recognize Bangladesh in that time when many big countries were not recognized the newborn country.
Well, Australia recognised the struggle that Bangladesh was going through. It was clear that Bangladesh had achieved its independence, and Australia was quick to recognise that. And we've been a firm friend for Bangladesh for the last 40 years.
And you have a people, Mr. Wonderland, who left his life for...
Yes.
That's a big thing for Bangladeshi people.
That's right.
So now, where the relationship stand right now?
The relationship now, I think we have a strong relationship now, and I think it continues to get better. There are ways we can measure that, concrete ways in which we can measure that. First, our trade volumes are increasing year on year. When I came here 3 years ago, my Bangladeshi friends used to observe, even complain sometimes, that the balance of trade was heavily in Australia's favour. We were exporting more to Bangladesh than Bangladesh was exporting to Australia. Well, in the 3.5 years that I've been here, that's turned around. Bangladesh is now exporting $600–700 million worth of garments to Australia every year, and that's climbing quite steeply as businesses in Australia demand more product from Bangladesh. Meanwhile, Australia is also exporting food to Bangladesh, a lot of wheat, chickpeas, lentils, cotton for your garments industry. And we're also host to many thousands of Bangladesh students every year in Australia. In addition to that, there's a large diaspora, a large Bangladeshi community in Australia.
Almost 30,000 people.
30,000 people, but it's not so much the number, but it's the rate of growth. It's one of our fastest growing migrant communities, and Bangladeshis are good migrants. They integrate very quickly into Australia, they're skilled, they speak English well, and importantly, they play cricket.
Yeah. Cricket is the big part between our friendship, obviously, and last time you host World Cup.
That's right.
And how do you evaluate Bangladesh cricket team right now?
Looking at the way the Tigers have strengthened over the last year has been inspiring for Bangladesh, and it's been thrilling for those of us who are friends of Bangladesh. It's a great cricketing nation, and the team is growing stronger, the management is growing stronger. You have a lot to be proud of. It's a test cricket nation. Australia helped it achieve test cricket status a dozen years ago, and we're looking forward to playing test cricket with Bangladesh. That must happen.
Hopefully, and that was supposed to be held some months ago in Dhaka.
That's right.
But unfortunately, that was cancelled.
Yes.
But Bangladeshi people were very frustrated when Australia failed to come here. I may say it failed to come.
No, that's fine.
But what was actually the reason behind this?
Well, it was a bad time for Bangladesh at that stage. You recall at the time the test squad was due to come to Bangladesh, there was a series of attacks here in Bangladesh at the same time. Entirely happenstance, entirely an unhappy coincidence. And I think Cricket Australia looked carefully, thought carefully about it, took its time, and made the decision at the time that it wasn't the right time to come to Bangladesh. But Cricket Australia has spoken for itself on these matters. Cricket Australia and the cricket team itself, they are friends of Bangladesh. There are personal relationships there. Many of our administrators, many of our players have known the other side for many years. And I think Cricket Australia, as the Australian cricket team does, wants to play cricket in Bangladesh. And our cricket authorities are going to work together to ensure that that happens.
Cricket diplomacy is a new arena between Bangladesh and Australia, as well as the security concern was behind that incident. How do you feel right now in Bangladesh regarding security? Is it okay now?
Well, I feel very well taken care of by the Bangladesh people and by the Bangladesh government. I think the Bangladesh government has responded quickly to security concerns and events here in Bangladesh. They've been very responsive. And I have been free to talk to as many Bangladesh officials about these matters. I'm pushing on an open door. So I'm confident that our cooperation is good. I'm confident that it's going to be better still in weeks and months ahead. I'm looking forward very much to welcoming the Bangladesh Foreign Secretary to Canberra next week for senior level talks between our foreign ministries. And we'll be talking...
That is FOC, Foreign Office Consultation.
Foreign Office consultations are due to take place next week. And we'll be talking about the length and breadth of Australia-Bangladesh relations. So subject matter ranging across security through trade and investment to development assistance to cultural relations. And that will help us take things to a new level between us.
Several times, Greg, you have talked about people-to-people contact between two countries.
Yes.
Where it is stand now? You have meetings, meeting with Foreign Office, meeting with the ministers.
That's right.
But what about the people-to-people contact, which is the basic of our friendship?
Well, they're very strong, and I'll mention two facets of that in particular. First, I've already mentioned university studies.
Yeah.
At any one time, there are about 7,000 Bangladeshi students studying at Australian universities. And this is the engine room of our people-to-people contacts. Many thousands of Bangladesh students, of course, have returned to Bangladesh after their studies, and they've added very substantially to the growth and to the potential of this country. The second facet I want to mention, and again I already alluded to it before, is our diaspora. There are about 30,000 Bangladesh-born Australians. Of course, many of my friends claim the number is higher. And once you count children, once you count students, once you count visitors, it of course is a very substantial amount of traffic between Australia and Bangladesh. And the 30,000 Bangladesh born, plus all of their friends and visitors, they don't just stay in Australia, they come back and forth. So I see Australian Bangladeshis, or Bangladeshi Australians rather, coming back to Bangladesh to invest, to run businesses, in some cases to run businesses that are exporting to Australia. So it's very, very tangible, very productive links between our two nations.
Sometimes the people who we are covering the diplomatic arenas, our colleagues said, you are the most handsome diplomat in Dhaka right now. So we want to know the secret behind this, but it's time to take a break. দর্শক ছোট্ট একটা বিরতি নিচ্ছি, কথা বলবো অস্ট্রেলিয়া হাই কমিশনার গ্রেগ উইলককের সাথে, আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকবেন নিশ্চয়ই। চলতে অনুষ্ঠানে ফিরলাম আবারও। বিরতির পর কথা বলছিলাম ঢাকায় অস্ট্রেলিয়ান হাই কমিশনার গ্রেগ উইলককের সঙ্গে। Willcock, before break, my question was, what is the secret of your this smartness? You look so young. You look so smart.
Oh, well, thank you very much. It's nice of you to say so. But I don't think there's any secret. I think I'm carefully groomed and maintained by my wife, who's much better, who has a much better fashion sense and sense of style than I do. My wife is now back in Australia. She's moved back there to put our children into school for the new school year. So some might argue that my sense of style and my grooming is falling apart in her absence, but nice of you to say so.
That's her credit, basically.
Sorry, say again?
That is her credit.
Oh yes, yes, absolutely. I give full credit to her.
You have two babies.
I have three now. I have three.
You have three.
That's right. Yeah.
They are living in Dhaka, or?
They lived in Dhaka with me for almost all of my posting. They recently returned to Australia, so my two sons could start the Australian school year at the beginning. Australia is a southern hemisphere country, so our school year starts in February. And we were lucky enough last August to have a baby daughter. She's now 7, going on 8 months old, and she's a delight. Yeah.
So you have studied political science as well as international relations.
Sure. Yeah.
You have a target from the very beginning to be a diplomat.
I'm not sure when I started studying what I wanted to be. I think the great majority of university students, whether in Australia or here in Bangladesh, don't have caste cast iron concepts of what they want to do at the end of university. I knew I wanted to be involved in international affairs somehow, whether it was working for an NGO or working at the United Nations. In the end, I applied to work in the Australian government, and I was accepted, and that's 20 years ago now, and I still feel very fortunate.
And you were the advisor of your foreign minister, so
correct.
You know the Australian foreign policy much better than you get the better chance to know the foreign policy of Australia better than many of your colleagues.
At that stage, I worked for the then Australian Foreign Minister. His name was Stephen Smith. He was Foreign Minister for 3 years, and then he became Defence Minister. So I was fortunate enough to work for him for 3 years, and that gave me a fantastic overview of Australia's interests globally, and especially in this region that Australia and Bangladesh share, which we refer to shorthand as the Indo-Pacific region.
You have also expertise regarding Middle East because you have worked these days in Australian Foreign Office. So now the terrorism is a big threat for all over the world, and no one is free from us. Before some days we just seen several incidents in France and Belgium.
Dreadfully sad.
So what's your evaluation regarding terrorism, especially here in Bangladesh?
Well, like most Bangladeshis, Australia expresses its condolences in the wake of the Brussels attacks. I think countries like Australia and Bangladesh stand together in facing this international scourge. We're working very hard internationally with all of our security partners, whether it be in Europe, whether it be in North America, the Middle East, here in South Asia, Southeast Asia. We're working as a government very closely with the security authorities, with the governments of all of those countries to prevent terrorism, to avert attacks, to work together on counter-radicalisation and de-radicalisation. It's an extremely complex problem and there's no one solution. It's a very, very difficult task that we have in front of us, but it's a necessary task, and it involves, as I alluded to before, all countries pulling in the same direction. The work that I do here in Bangladesh is a small part of what Australia does internationally, but an important part, and we value our cooperation with the Bangladesh government on these matters very highly.
So this is a common problem, and Bangladesh stand well, you think. At the same time, what are the major challenges of Bangladesh right now? Because Bangladesh is growing, our economy is growing, and we have a target. Government set a target, Vision 2021.
That's right.
Bangladesh would like to be a middle-income country within 5 or 6 years. Do you think it would be possible?
I think a lot is possible in Bangladesh. This is a country that's achieved a lot in the last 45 years, and its best days, I think, are still in front of it. I applaud the Bangladesh government's growth and development objectives. Bangladesh has delivered on so much development over the course of the last couple of generations. There's no reason why it can't continue to do that. Australia can play a role, as we are already, and I've mentioned university education, I've mentioned scholarships. We'll continue to work closely with the Bangladesh government on those objectives and those goals. The Australian private sector also has a role to play. Our retailers in Australia are becoming larger and more significant purchasers of Bangladeshi garments. And I think the future of our trade and investment relationship lies in power and energy. Australia, as you know, is a major exporter of LNG, of coal. Our resources companies are some of the biggest and most talented internationally. We have a great deal of skill in that sector. And it's skill that we would like to share with Bangladesh so it can develop its own resources. And some of our companies are interested and in fact are investing in Bangladesh. One of our major energy companies, Santos, is the only international energy company to have run an offshore gas rig, that's right, in the Bay of Bengal. And it remains very interested in Bangladesh's potential, as do other companies. So Bangladesh's growth and Australia's growth, in my view, go hand in hand. We have very complementary economies.
Greg, again we have to take a break. দর্শক ছোট্ট একটা বিরতি নিচ্ছি, ফিরছি কিছুক্ষণের মধ্যে, আমাদের সঙ্গে থাকবেন নিশ্চয়ই। স্বাগত আর একবার চলতে চলতে অনুষ্ঠানে কথা বলছিলাম অস্ট্রেলিয়ান হাই কমিশনার গ্রেগ উইলককের সঙ্গে। গ্রেগ, ইউ হ্যাভ টোল্ড রিগার্ডিং your interest on offshore drilling and you have done it. You know, Bangladesh, the new Bay of Bengal is a big area for Bangladesh now. So do you have any interest to work here under production sharing contract with Petrobangla?
Well, we have a strategic interest as a country in working with Bangladesh to lift its energy production and its energy potential. As I mentioned, we have a number of companies that are interested, see Bangladesh as a very prospective country for investment and for production. Those companies should be able to speak for themselves. I can speak for the Australian government in saying that as a country, we have a strategic interest in Bangladesh's growth and ways in which to help its economy grow. And one thing we do very well as a nation is our work and our expertise in the petroleum sector, in the oil, gas, energy fields. So, as an Australian government representative, I've done my best to promote our expertise, our interest in Bangladesh's potential. And really it's now up to our individual energy companies to discuss these matters directly with their Bangladesh counterparts.
Obviously, Australian investors sometimes or all times have some communication with your office. So what's their attitude regarding, or what's their evaluation regarding investment climate here in Bangladesh?
Well, that it's highly prospective. This is a growing economy with strong potential. Australian traders, Australian investors are paying attention. Of course, when Australian investors look at Bangladesh, they also have to look at, well, where else can we put our money? It's a competitive world. Governments are competing for foreign direct investment in their countries. And when they look at Bangladesh, they ask themselves, well, is this a competitive economy? Is this a safe and secure place to put our money over the long term? And these are questions that are best answered by the Bangladesh government itself. That's why when we have investors come and knock at our door, we share some of our assessments of the Bangladesh economy, of the future of the Bangladesh economy, the great prospects here. But we also, more importantly, introduce them to our friends in the Bangladesh government so that the Bangladesh government can speak for itself and speak with its own voice. That's right.
If I ask you regarding political situation where Bangladesh stand now, do you find any political challenge here?
Well, I have an important job to do in terms of working with the Bangladesh government on all of the interests that we share and need to work on together. So I'm focused very much on those interests, what we're doing together on peace and security in the region, what we're doing together on defence cooperation, what we can do together to encourage trade and investment, what we're doing together to defend public safety. So these jobs loom very, very large for me at the moment, and I'm very much focused on that positive agenda. As I said, we made our views about elections and about political violence known at the time. That time has come and gone. We need now to focus on the job at hand.
Greg, you said several times that Bangladesh is very much important for your strategic partner. Or Bangladesh is why Bangladesh? Why do you consider Bangladesh as your strategic partner? Only for its location?
Well, we share a region. That's the first thing. What we refer to as the Indo-Pacific. Australia's strategic and economic interests are bound up very significantly in this part of the world. Trade and investment flows, people-to-people flows, migrant communities, peace and security interests, all of that really comes together for us in this region, the Indo-Pacific. And Bangladesh, increasingly, as it grows, as it becomes more self-confident, an outward-looking country engaged in this region, is becoming more important to us for exactly those reasons. Your geographic location is increasingly one of your prime strategic assets. You sit here literally and metaphorically at Asia's crossroads, at the crossroads between South Asia, Southeast Asia and China. So that alone makes you an important strategic partner for countries like Australia. And then of course there's your growth. your economic weight, that makes you a more important strategic partner for us as well. So Bangladesh increasingly is able to shape affairs in its own neighbourhood, and that neighbourhood we share. So that's the answer to your question.
The last question. You have visited many districts of Bangladesh, and after some months you have to leave Bangladesh.
Yes.
So what would be the best memory in your heart about Bangladesh?
I have a lot of happy memories about Bangladesh, and I have travelled from north to south and from east to west, and I've seen a lot of beautiful things. I've met a lot of interesting people. For me, the highlight has been social life, whether here in Dhaka or during my visits, because wherever I go, be it in Dhaka, be it in Sylhet, Cox's Bazar, anywhere else.
Or Kushtia.
Kushtia, where I went with Mababul Hanif, who was my host there. I've been greeted with open arms and a warm welcome. And that is what makes Bangladesh stand out for me in particular, is the warmth of the welcome, is the warmth of the people. You're pushing at an open door.
Thank you, Greg, for your valuable time.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it.
দর্শক, শেষ করছি আজ। কথা হবে পরবর্তী পর্বে নতুন কোনো অতিথির সঙ্গে। সে পর্যন্ত সঙ্গে থাকবেন নিশ্চয়ই।